Welcome back to the Cat Knit Podcast. My name is Grace and today is Friday, March 23rd. This is a podcast about knitting and crafting and baking and books and cats, but specifically knitting because that is what I love to do the most. Apologies for last week for no episode. As if you can hear, I am still kind of congested. But last week I caught a very bad cold and completely lost my voice and had a very bad cough. So recording was just not very practical, I guess you could say. But I did put together a little like sick day video for you guys of like what I do on a sick day. So I hope you enjoyed that, but again, apologies for not a regular episode. Today we do have a regular episode, not a whole lot of knitting, but knitting just the same, and I am here to talk to you guys about it. So, if you would, there is social media for you to follow. I should mention that first before I say go get a drink. If you'd like to follow me on any of my social medias, I have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Ravelry. I'm most active on Instagram by far, so if you'd like to go follow me on there and see what I get up to during the week, that would be wonderful. There's also a podcast group for this podcast on Ravelry if you'd like to join it. I am not very good at posting in it, and yeah, that's just it. But if you would like to join it, it is there for you to join just the same. The link to that will be in the down bar, and if you're on my blog, it'll also be down below. So if you'd like to go follow me on the social medias, you are more than welcome to. So now we can say, if you'd like to go grab something tasty to drink or snack on or craft or whatever, and come back and join me for some crafty chat. So like I said, I did have a very bad cough, and isn't it terrible how those coughs and colds can like linger for forever, even though it's just like a raspy cough? It's just like, just go away. I'm done with you. I'm tired of being sick. Even though you're not really sick anymore, you just have a cough, and it's like, it's the worst. So apologies if this is a very like jumpily, because that's a word, jumpily edited podcast. I'm going to have to edit out all my coughing. So, fun times are ahead. But let's talk about some knitting because that's way more fun. So this week I only have 2 projects to show you, which again, that's still pretty good. I did get a lot of progress on both of these things, so I'm proud of myself. If you watched last week's little episode, you saw that I did a lot of yarn winding, and I was preparing for a new project. I was preparing to continue on with old projects, and I think I kind of included on what I was working on and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to talk about those things because I did work on them, as you saw in last week's episode. So this is the yarn that I'm working with right now, which is very beautiful. It is Malabrigo Finito in the some kind of colorway. I don't remember what it is. The ball band is in the other room. But it's a bunch of blues and kind of like whites as well that are like gray whites, which I think is just so beautiful. I love it. And this is my E-color, I believe, in my Find Your Fade. Woohoo! Look at my progress. So much progress. I am just like so in love with how these 2 colors are like melting together. Is it the most subtle fade? No. But I'm just really loving how those colors are going together. I didn't expect them to not go together, but I didn't expect them to go together that well. So it was a pleasant surprise when I started knitting with the new Malabrigo. And as you can see, I have my beautiful, adorable little Sucra Miniatures pizza progress keeper, which I think is very fun. It's not really marking anything for me at this point. I've done the pattern enough to know what I'm doing, and I know how to count without the progress keeper, but it's still really fun to have a little pizza hanging off your knitting. Who wouldn't want that? That is the real question. So yes, I am super excited with how this is turning out. I am getting ready to do the the big long garter stitch section, which is very nice because that is typically reading knitting for me, opposed to like the lace section in this pattern. So that's super exciting. Am I reading anything currently that's like very exciting? Kind of. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But so yeah, so this is super fun. This is, if I didn't mention this before, this is Find Your Fade by Andrea Mowry. Yeah. Would I make this again? For sure. Will I make it will I make it again right away? Probably not. But I'm really loving how it's turning out. I really like the shape of it. Granted, I am not done with it, so I don't know what the finished shape is. Actually, I do know what it's gonna look like, but I haven't like seen it in person. So I think I'll like the shape. I think I will like how big it is. I know that it turns out to be a massive shawl, especially after you block it, which I am really looking forward to. So fun times, fun times. In regards to the other yarns that I've used on this thing, my Ravelry project page will be linked in the show notes if you'd like to go see the other yarns. I think I've linked them there. I'm not completely sure. But if I haven't, and you're wondering, feel free to send me a message on any of the social media platforms and I would be happy to let you know. It's just a lot of Malabrigo and some of my own yarn, so I'm really loving it. I don't know why this blue color just like got me so excited about it. It just brought it, it's just a pop of color and it's just like, oh, pop of color. Can't go wrong with a pop of color in your life, for sure. Woohoo! So secondly, what I've been working on, which is what I've been working on mostly for the past week, is a new cast on. You might remember. My mom and I are going to be making the Lady Mademoiselle Dandelion, that's the name of it, by Long avec Anna. She just published this cardigan a couple of weeks ago and it is beautiful. It is gorgeous, and so we got the yarn to make that a couple weeks ago and it arrived recently, and so I wound mine up while I was ill and started it because that's what you need. You need happy knitting in your life when you're not feeling well, and you just need a little knitting spark of creativity just to like motivate you to get things done. Because that's one of the down things, for me anyway, this is just how I work when I'm sick. Sometimes I have a problem or I like struggle to feel the like need to do anything when I'm ill, so if I'm sitting on the couch, I'm like, I don't feel like doing anything. I just won't do anything. But it's like, I'm sitting on the couch. I could read, I could knit, I could cross stitch, I could do so many different things. But I'm not feeling well, so I just don't feel like doing anything. And it's just kind of like, this feels like such a waste of time, but also I know I'm getting better. Like, I need to rest in order to get better. Do you feel that way? I don't know. I always think about that when I'm sick and I'm just like, I could be using this time, but I don't feel like knitting. Which is why I cast on something new, so I could be motivated to work on something and just like feel good about myself and be like, oh, I'm being productive. I'm working on a sweater that I can wear soon. So this is living in my Loops yarn store bag, which is a yarn store in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I highly recommend. It's a really like heavy duty bag, and it's got a very nice flat bottom, so it's like very easy to knit out of. It's also huge, so you can keep a lot in it, which is very nice. So let me pull out, there are DPNs sticking out every which way that does not belong there. Okie dokie. Also, another thing that has really enabled me to get a lot of knitting done the past couple of days is I had a good friend come to visit me, and she's a knitter, so we got a lot of knitting done, and we watched a TV show that I'm going to talk to you guys about because I'm obsessed. But that's for a later time in the podcast, so let's not get carried away with ourselves. I'm just so excited about it. Anyway, so we got a lot of knitting done, and I'm very happy with the knitting that I got done. if I haven't mentioned that before, because I feel like I have. This is the first sleeve. Look at that. I knit an entire sleeve super quickly. Like, I know it looks really short, and it's like, is that really a sleeve? Like, that doesn't look right. But I've measured it. I've measured my arm several times, and it's the right length. So, and I know I could just try it on, but I haven't done that yet, which is odd. But anyway, I've measured it. It'll be fine. I love it. I love how this yarn knit up. Like, look at that. That looks so beautiful. I love the like slight variegation, and it just looks heathered and beautiful, and it's fogging up my glasses. But that's not the point. So this sweater is knit from the bottom up. So the pattern technically has you knit both sleeves first, and then you knit the body. In order to combat second sleeve syndrome, as that is a definite thing that happens, I knit one sleeve, and now I'm going to knit the body, and then I'll knit the next sleeve when I get to the point in the body where I need to join them together, which is how things work. So yes, this is just on scrap yarn right now. Really, really loving it. Fun story about this. I'm proud of this sleeve for multiple reasons, one of which is how quickly I was able to knit it, and second of all, I knit it on a method that I'm not used to, which you may ask, you always knit things on DPNs, like, if you can knit it on circulars you will, but if not, it's always DPNs. But I didn't do that this time. Well, I did for a little bit, but I didn't like how it was going. So from here, you can kind of tell that like the top portion is kind of like a little balloony compared to the rest of it. Here, let's move that out of the way. So the pattern calls for a size 4, US 4, which was super cool. I cast on the sleeve, knit the ribbing, no big deal. It was a little loose for me, and I was like, well, let's just see how it goes when we get to the like sleeve portion. I was knitting with the 4 on DPNs, and it just wasn't my favorite. And it's just like really stretchy, and I wanted to have a little bit more tight knit of a fabric. So I was like, I should go down to a 3, but I also don't really want to keep knitting on DPNs if possible, because there's ladders and gauges different on DPNs, and it's just weird, and I don't like it. So I did some digging in my needle stash, and I was like, found a packet. It says number 3 on it. That'll work. Oh wait, it's a 9-inch circular. Which most people who really like these will be like, oh yeah, that's so exciting, that's the only way I do things. I've tried these before, and it just did not work. So I was like, dang it. And you might also be thinking, Grace, why don't you have size 3 DPNs? Why don't you have size 3 16-inch? First of all, 16-inch was too long for the size that I was at the time. And I have no idea where my size 3 DPNs are. They're scattered all over the place in various boxes and in bags, and goodness knows where. I think, actually, maybe I did find some, but again, I didn't really want to knit with DPNs if possible. So I knew that this was probably my only, it's very hard to see, this was probably my only like way to do it, unless I really wanted to just like suck it up and learn how to magic loop, or I don't know. But again, I didn't have a size 3 40-inch or whatever you need, with the long one for the magic loop or whatever. So I was like, okay, well, 9-inch circulars, let's give you another try. So I did, and I loved it. It was like the best experience ever. Granted, it was weird at the beginning, and I didn't really like know where to put my hands. I didn't know what to hold on to. I'm going to put this down because you know what a needle package looks like. So as you can see, it's like a little baby knitting needle, and they're little baby needles because it's only a size 3. But it worked so well. I knit that sleeve so quickly, and it just like, obviously tightened up my gauge, and I love how it looks. And I think I actually like measured my gauge, and I was spot on with the 3. And I think I was a couple stitches extra on the 4. So, which a couple stitches is not too bad. It's not like it was 5 stitches or whatever. But I'm really glad that because I'm going to be making a bigger size anyway, because I want it to be kind of like oversized a little bit. So I didn't want to like overdo it, if you get what I mean. So yeah, I knit the sleeve on 9-inch circulars. I loved it. Will I be doing it again? For sure. Will I try socks with it now? Maybe. I don't know. I think I have 9-inch ones floating around somewhere. I don't know where they are. I think I do. I don't remember. But if not, I would really like to try socks with these, because now I know where to like put my hands and like how to do it quickly. I really want to like give socks another try, but I don't know. I don't really wear knitted socks. We don't really wear knitted socks in Houston because it's just so hot, because it's the end of March and it's in the high 70s, 80s. So already, so we don't really have a need for knitted socks, but they're just so much fun. And every time I see people knit socks, I'm like, ooh, that would be so much fun, but I would never get any use out of them. But they're just so much fun, and they're quick knits, and I just, I'm so torn. So yes, this is the sleeve. First sleeve is done. So much progress. So proud of myself. I suppose I should also mention what yarn I'm using, because that's important. I'm using Cascade 220 fingering in the colorway Indigo, colorway 9559, whatever that is. On the website, I think it was Indigo Heather, Indigo Frost Heather, Frost Indigo Heather, combination of those words. It's just beautiful. I think it'll be gorgeous. So that's my yarn. So I finished with the sleeve and was like, yes, onto the body. We can work on the body now. And of course, because it's bottom up, you cast on a bazillion stitches. It looks very small because it's on a 24-inch, because that's all I could find. So it looks very scrunchy, but it's like a bazillion stitches on here. And I did the twisted ribbing on again on a size 4. Enjoyed that, but again, I talked to my mom about this while I was doing it. I was like, this purling to the back loop, it will never go away. It gives such a nice effect. Like, it is beautiful, but it's such a pain. Why? Why is it such a pain? Am I the only one who feels this way? I feel like I'm not, but I don't know. Purling to the back loop is not my favorite. I love knitting to the back loop. That's just so much more easy. But it's just like an extra, takes so much more extra effort for the purling to the back loop, which is really dumb because it's not really that much, but it just seems like it is because it takes so much more time than like regular knitting or knitting to the back loop. Anyway, that was a tangent. So I was knitting the ribbing on a size 4. Knit a couple rows on the size 4 of the stockinette, looked at the gauge, was a couple stitches too big, or there were like, I had a couple extra stitches. I think that's, yeah, you know what I mean. I didn't quite match gauge. And so I was like, okay, just going down to a 3, which, like, there's something about the idea of knitting a sweater on a size 3 needle. Anything from a 3 below, it just sounds super daunting because I know it'll take a really long time. But that's okay. We just have to get through that mental block and just be like, it'll be fine. It'll be worth it. Get over it and just do it. So I'm now knitting on a size 3 on a bazillion stitches. And the stitch pattern is very time consuming. So I don't know how soon this sweater will be done. But I am loving it. So I say that in a bad way, or I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying that in a completely fun way. It's awesome. I'm loving it. And now I'm going to show you. So the pattern has the name, or the word dandelion in it. And so the sweater uses the dandelion stitch, which is public knowledge, which is why I'm going to talk to you about it. But if it were not, if she had come up with it, I wouldn't be sharing it. But so in the pattern, she linked a really, really handy video that someone made, like showing how to do the dandelion stitch, because I read her instructions and I was like, oh, I know that makes sense, but I have no idea what to do. So I really appreciated the video that was linked in the pattern. But I'm sure if you just like Googled the dandelion stitch, it'll show you how to do it for sure. Or on YouTube, because that's where the videos are. Anyway, so here are my little dandelions that I've made so far. Can we show those? I know it's kind of hard to see because it's so light. But you can see those little stitches have been pulled up. It's a super genius way on how to make it. I had no idea how I was going to be doing that beforehand, before I had watched the video and read the instructions. But now it's just like, of course that's how you do it. How would you do it any other way? But I feel like that's always the case when you learn something new. So, I love it. But like I said, it's super time consuming. The one row or the 2 rows where you make the dandelions take so much longer than just regular stockinette rows. Of course, that makes sense. But again, it's just kind of like, why must this go so much slower? I'm trying to think of it as if it were like a cable row. That would take longer. Or a lace row. That would also take longer. We're having a light change because the sun must be going behind a cloud. But we're going to keep on going because natural lighting. So, I don't know. So yeah, I am, I don't know. It's just like mind stuff I have to get over and not be grumpy about. And also, this is totally me. This is not the pattern whatsoever. The pattern is wonderful. It's wonderfully written. It's very clear. It's got good information, obviously, because it was linked. There was a video linked on how to do the stitch. It is all in centimeters, which is not a problem at all, because obviously I have access to centimeters on my tape measure. But it is a little different to like, not in a bad way, but like it's a little different to be like, oh, instead of 4 inches, I'm looking for however many centimeters or whatever. It's a good experience for me to kind of be able to gauge how many centimeters something would be, because I can do that kind of in inches. Like if I look at something, I can kind of gauge how big something is in inches, but I can't do that in centimeters. So I'm hoping that I'll get better at doing that, because that is always a good skill to have. I'm also really loving this because I've learned a lot already. I've learned about centimeters. I've learned the 9-inch circulars, and I've learned a dandelion stitch, which is a pretty big thing because it is like a stitch that is a common stitch. And there's some kind of truck driving by with very squeaky brakes while we're talking about stitches. So I really appreciate that I've like learned things and I can use this knowledge in my other knitting events and stuff. I think that's really, really important, to not always knit things that you're like comfortable with. Again, going back to my knitting goals of the year, knit things that are outside of my comfort zone, learning things. Always good, always important. Always try and expand your knitting knowledge. You don't, people what am I trying to say? Knitters never know all of the knitting things in the world. There's always something for them to learn. And I think that's really super cool. And I want to keep on learning and expanding my knitting knowledge. So you should too. So yes, I've been working on this cardigan. It does not yet have a Ravelry page, but I'm going to be working on that in the near future, so that will be linked in the show notes so you can go check that out. I mentioned this earlier. That TV show. I apologize for my bangs. I just really don't know what's going on with them, and I'm going to try not to touch them too much. So this TV show that my friend and I found. Oh my goodness. So, first of all, it's on Netflix. The first season is all on Netflix. It says that it's a Netflix original, but I have done some further investigation, and it was on the TV on like Channel 7 in Australia. So this is an Australian show. It is the Australian version of the Great British Bake Off. Say no more. Like, that's just like, what? Again, the sun has gone behind the clouds. So, it is it's not the exact same as the Great British Bake Off, but it is very, very similar in that there are like bakers or dessert makers as they're called. They have a challenge, and then the bottom two people of the challenge then go head to head in a Zumbo test. I should say what this show is called because that's really important. The show is called Zumbo's Just Desserts. Do not be put off by the very strange name because you hear the word Zumbo and you're like, what? That sounds potentially like a kid's show. Maybe not for me, but don't be put off by that. It's really good. I think Zumbo is the guy's last name, or the famous Mary Berry, Paul Hollywood type person. He's Australian. I think all of the contestants are Australian except for maybe there's one lady named Gigi who is like part of the hosting trio. She's from Brazil, and then the commentator lady is from England, I believe. But it's wonderful. They make such incredible things. It's in regards to not being like the Great British Bake Off, the things that they make are not traditional at all. They're very like gourmet, they're very like architectural, yeah, that's right. I'm pronouncing that correctly. They're very whimsical. It's very like, how can we put things together in order to make something that will make people question how you've made that? Which I think is just so cool. I love that. It's just incredible to see what people can do with food and how they can melt chocolate in various different ways and make it stick together so it like can support an entire cake. And it's like, wow, I had no idea you could do that. But now I do, and that's super cool. So let's watch some more. Another thing that I really, really appreciate about Zumbo's Just Desserts is that just like the Great British Bake Off, there is a like friendliness and camaraderie and kindness between the contestants. So there's no like, you're going down and I'm gonna sabotage your ice cream and all that kind of, there's none of that. People are very kind to each other. They like to like trash talk each other, but they're always very kind to each other, and I think that's very, very neat and special to watch in a competition because the prize is pretty hefty. So I think that's pretty cool. And it's just like they're super cool people. They're all very diverse, and they're from different backgrounds, and they all have different jobs, and it's just really, really cool. So on Netflix, there are 12 episodes, and each episode is about an hour long. So it's a good, like, get some knitting done TV. And it's, yeah, it's just super fun listening to what people put together flavor-wise. It's also cool because it's like, instead of British things and like traditional cookies that they have and flavors that they do all the time and like names for the cakes and stuff, it's like Australia's version, which is super cool. Like I know what a Tim Tam is, but I've never had one, and I don't know what their traditional cookie names are, and so I got to learn about those, which was super cool. And yeah, so it's like I know I've ranted and raved about this TV show. I highly, highly recommend it. If you like the Great British Bake Off, you should definitely watch it. It's very similar. It's similar enough that it's just like, ooh, you get those good baking feels, but it's different enough that you're like, ooh, I'm learning something. This is super cool. I love this. So some of it is just kind of like, it is kind of cheesy sometimes, but it's cheesy in a very like whimsical, happy way. So I loved it so much. Zumbo's Just Desserts on Netflix. In America, anyway. I don't know about other places, but in America, it's so good. Highly, highly recommend. And so with that, I have talked about all the things that I was going to talk about this week in this episode. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Apologies for my not normal voice and my congestion and my nose. I'm much better than I was, so that's all that really matters, I guess. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. Again, if you'd like to follow me on any of my social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Ravelry, they'll be linked down below, and you can go and follow me there. I hope you've had a wonderful week, and I hope you continue to have a wonderful weekend, or whatever part of the week it is for you. If you have crafty plans, I hope they are successful. I have crafty plans this weekend just to make progress on everything. So I'm very excited about that. I am sad I have no more Zumbo's Just Desserts to watch. We finished it, unfortunately, which I'm very sad about because I loved it so much. I don't know if they're making a season 2, but I don't know. I just don't know. It's just so good. Oh well. Alas, alas. We will move on. Because there are other shows that can be watched. So yes, I hope you enjoy crafting and just happiness this weekend if you have fun plans. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, so yeah. And so with that, that is all that I have to say this week. So I guess I will talk to you guys next week.